Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Kerrville. At this time, I'd invite everybody to check in online on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever else is out there that people use nowadays. Let the world know that we're solving every problem right here in Kerrville, and we're going to have a great program today. But when you're checking in, if you would please, make sure you turn your phone on quiet so we don't interrupt the wonderful program that Crystal's here to do for us again today. At this time, Ashley Phillips, would you please come up and lead us in our prayer and pledge?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this time of fellowship with friends. Lord, thank you for this meal. Bless the hands that prepared it. May it go to the nourishment of our bodies and our bodies to your service, Lord. Father God, in John 15:13, you say, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Father, we just thank you for friends like our fellow Rotarians that choose to put themselves aside to serve a greater purpose. And may we always keep that in mind in all that we do. In your heavenly name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, no announcement needed.
We are celebrating a February birthday, so if you do not have a February birthday, you may sit down. Jeff Talarico does, though. I do. We have 13 people with birthdays in February, and any minute. But I'm in February. Yeah. So here's the list. So we're going to sing happy birthday, February birthdays. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, February birthdays. Happy birthday to you. All right. Yay.
Thank you, George. All right. Well, it gives me great honor and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, who's back again from Round Rock, Texas, as she comes every year for us to carry on her tradition of the Valentine's Day program. Crystal, thank you for being here with us again today. And at this time, I would like to, she doesn't need an introduction really, but Crystal Dockery, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, my fabulous friends. There are some new faces that I don't know, but gosh, it's nice to see faces that I remember and miss. As we get started today, every year I talk a little about love and Valentine's, and I've pulled some riveting things I'll be sharing in between your great speakers today. But what I want to say is, you know, you love different people in different ways in your life. And I will say that I love the privilege of coming here each year for different events that I care about, that seeing friends and people that I genuinely miss and care about. And this is such a great club and so many great friends here. So I'm glad to be here. With my mushy beginning, we're going to jump right into our speakers. We've got 4 speakers today, and we get to hear all about how their love and relationship began. And our first speaker today is going to be George and Judy Eichner. And what I have to say is, I was telling him I was cleaning out photos, and George was president when I joined Rotary back in the day when I moved here. So always great to hear from them. Can't wait to hear the love story, George.
Well, I could give you the short answer that Judy and I from Nebraska, in towns that are 150 miles apart. We went to 2 different universities and met on a blind date, and here we are today. But I think you will agree that some of the events that led to us connecting. You come up and have a seat too. That led to us connecting are either a result of blind, just dumb luck, or divine intervention. And But a couple of weeks ago, Wayne Eaker talked about his philosophy of life being the road not taken by Robert Frost, the poem. Two paths diverged in the woods, and sorry, I could not take both. I chose one, and that made all the difference. And I've come up with 8 paths that came up that led to us getting together. The first one was when I was a senior in high school. I applied for the Naval Academy and for senatorial appointment and came out 3rd alternate, but was offered an appointment to the Merchant Marine Academy. And I turned that down, primarily because it did not fill your draft obligation. And that was a big deal at the time. But still to this day, I wonder what if I'd have taken that. The second one was, was attending the All-State Music Festival at the University of Nebraska after my senior year. And I went with my girlfriend, Donna, who I thought was going to be my life mate. We dated all through high school and we're really an item. And we went to the music festival, and the house that she was staying in had a chaperone or a house mother called Mrs. Scott or Scotty. And Scotty just fell in love with Donna, and by default, she liked me as well. And turns out she said she was the house mother for the Delta Upsilon fraternity. And I said, you know, I was thinking about coming up for Rush Week before school started, and that's a 3-day deal where you visit all the fraternities, and at the end of the time, you may or may not get a bid to pledge that fraternity. And she said, boy, if you come, she says, come to DU house and say hi to me. And so throughout the summer, I debated that, and I had a really good friend who was a Sigma Chi that was a year ahead of me, and he was really pushing me to come to Rush Week and join his fraternity. And at his urging, I went ahead and went to Rush Week. And my mother was just upset because she says, don't you dare join a fraternity. She says, your dad's brother was a fraternity man, and it made him uppity, you know. And so, of course, you know, being 18 and knowing the world, I said, oh, don't worry, Ma. I'm just going to go down and see what's happening. And so sure enough, went down to Rush Week, visited the Sigma Chi house, and man, I got the royal treatment. They introduced me to everybody, and I was just top dog there. I went to the Delta Upsilon house and got the whole hum treatment. I didn't know anybody there. And until I mentioned, hey, Mrs. Scott, I'd like to see Scotty if I could. And they said, okay. And so went in her apartment, man, she stood up and gave me a big hug and said, you know, introduced me to everybody in the room and said, asked me if I'd gotten a bid to come back the next day. And I said, no. She said, man, give this guy a bid. We need him in our house here. So sure enough, I came back 2 days later, and one thing led to another, and I ended up pledging Delta Upsilon fraternity to the dismay of my Sigma Chi friend, and particularly my mother. I don't know that she ever forgave me. So anyhow, so that brings me to my 6th road, where in my junior year, I roomed with 3 of my other fraternity brothers. We rented a house and moved off campus ostensibly to save money, but it basically was a place to party, and you have beer in the refrigerator and that kind of thing. And one of my roommates was a guy by the name of Chuck Adams. And at that time, I was in a dance band and was playing most every weekend and didn't have any social life. And Chuck said, I need to line you up with somebody. You need a social life. And I kept turning him down. And so finally, the 7th crossroad I came up to, he said, I want to line you up with a blind date. So he lined me up with a gal named Barbie Benton. And she was cute. I mean, you picture an ideal date, she was it. She loved jazz music. She'd heard of Maynard Ferguson, who was one of my trumpet playing idols. And so we went out for Sunday dinner. And during the course of the meeting, or the deal, there was an awkward silence between the 2 girls, and they said, well, just tell him. And I said, what's the deal? And she said, well, she says, I have a date in 40 minutes and I need to be back home. And so being the gentleman I was, we rushed through dinner and I took her back to the dorm. But I got thinking afterwards, you know, I should have said, well, I tell you what, if you leave right now, you could probably be there by 40 minutes, you know. And so anyhow, so that was the 7th time. And so the 8th password that came up was Chuck and his girlfriend, Jeannie, who, by the way, was going to the same university where Judy was, and in the same sorority, as it turned out, said, let me line you up one more time at the blind date. And there's an old saying about, you know, you bite me once, shame on you. You bite me twice, shame on me. And I wasn't sure about that, but anyhow, I took took Chuck up on his offer for the 8th blind date, and that's where Judy comes in.
So my turn. So I grew up on a farm, southeast Nebraska. High school was small. We had 100. My graduating class had 21 in it. I'd had a scholarship to the University of Nebraska, so that's where I started. And when I got to the U, found out that I was a little pea in a big pod, and I was used to being a big pea in a little pod. So my first year wasn't too exciting, and I wasn't very happy. So I transferred to Nebraska Wesleyan University, which was across town, and pledged a sorority. And I had two wonderful roommates. One was dating this guy from the university, and he had a roommate, and they kept talking about this George guy who was the roommate. And I'd heard about the date that was cut short, and that George wasn't excited about that. I also learned that he was a Methodist. I learned he was an Air Force ROTC, and I learned that he was a musician. Jeannie kept asking me to meet him. She kept talking about him, just couldn't say enough good things about George. So I contemplated it. I wasn't a fan of blind dates. It's kind of like that box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. And the musician thing didn't really turn me on. I was a farm girl. I knew about cows and horses and farming, but those musicians were kind of a strange group and could be different. But I agreed that after a while that I would agree to a blind date. So it was set up as after a football game at Wesleyan. It was going to be a double date. And so since it was after the game, it wouldn't be very long. So I kept asking myself, how bad could it be? But I'd had a real buildup. I mean, Jeannie talked about this George all the time. And so my expectations are really high. Kind of tall, dark, handsome, and he'd like horses. Well, I was a little disappointed. He wasn't quite what I expected. He was short, little bow-legged, and he wasn't what I would call handsome, but he was cute. And he did have a good sense of humor. He was easygoing. He was good-natured. Our date was a bowling date. I beat him. But he was a good sport. Later, of course, he said that he let me beat him. So I did agree to a second date, which was a drive-in movie. And don't remember so much about the drive-in movie itself, but the day was, and this shows our age, it was the day that President Kennedy was killed. And so it was a day we'll all remember. The dating did continue. I kind of got to liking this musician. He was actually pretty squared away, but dating wasn't normal with this musician. He and a friend had a 10-piece dance band, and so they had Saturday night gigs and Friday night gigs. So as our relationship developed, I would stay home on Friday and Saturday nights, and they would play. But he'd make up for it. We would have Saturday dates and Sunday dates. So it worked out all right. I later learned that he didn't like dancing. He could put a horn in his mouth and he could feel the music all the time, but he had two left feet on the dance floor. I learned he liked motorcycles. He wasn't a fan of horses. I wasn't a fan of motorcycles, but over the years we compromised on convertibles. So that worked out. We dated a year and a half, and he surprised me by proposing on my 21st birthday, just before Christmas, with a ring on a pair of leather gloves. And I really wasn't surprised at the ring because we'd talked about that, but I was surprised at the leather gloves because George's nature was cheap, and to spend the money on the gloves to put the ring on there was a little out of character. We were married the end of my junior year. The Air Force allowed him to delay entering active duty to finish his master's degree, and I was able to complete my teaching degree. Our first assignment was Lackland. We loved the Texas winters. Our Air Force life was good. We enjoyed it. We had good assignments. And I learned I had this insatiable desire to see the world. Turkey was our most interesting assignment. George retired after 22 years out of Goodfellow up at San Angelo. And one of the interesting things that I've often thought about was how my hesitancy about his being a musician, which was a hobby through the Air Force. It wasn't what he did there, but it was actually what opened so many doors that would not have been opened every place that we were stationed. So in the spring of '89, the Mount Wesley Conference Center was looking for an executive director, and we found ourselves in Kerrville. 2 of our 3 kids graduated from Tybee. So 57 years later, it's a long time, 3 great kids, 3 wonderful spouses, and 7 awesome grandkids. I'm really glad I said yes to that musician.
Well, since I brought up chocolate, I feel like I need to give a little Valentine's fact. Do you know who began Valentine's chocolates as a tradition? You would think Hershey's, right? But it's Cadbury. Who would have thought? Actually, Richard Cadbury is the son of the manufacturer for Cadbury chocolate, and he started packaging the product in heart-shaped boxes to try to drive up sales. From that first Valentine's Day box sold in the 1860s grew an industry that now counts 36 million heart-shaped boxes of chocolate sold every year. What do you think the most popular candy is? There are no prizes. It's just a guess. Caramel, followed by chocolate covered nuts. So I am full of interesting facts in between each speaker today. So our next speaker is someone that I just met right before we started. So Woody Lockhart is going to share his love story with us. Great.
Hi, everybody. I'm the guy that's trying to move into the club. So hello for everybody that hasn't seen me yet. So I've been in Texas now since 1985. My father and family grew up in Texas, but his career was with the State Department. So I grew up in DC. In the late 1980s, I went to work for a Houston local company, start out called Positron. And we were designing and building brand new high-end medical imaging equipment that was designed to help improve heart care. My wife, who's a financial background person, went to work for the company in the dealing with the FDA, and healthcare insurance reimbursement. And so we were coworkers and became friends and allies for about 4 years. In that time period, there were a few things that kind of helped us become really good friends. I spent, for example, about 4 months in a row at one point early on, trying to talk her to just going out to lunch with me, and she turned me down every day for 4 months. I didn't realize that she was going to the gym at lunch, but she, details. My hobby at the time was motorcycling. I was a tour bike motorcyclist. So finally, I got her to invite her out for a just motorcycle ride for lunch on a Saturday with some friends. Now, I had a full tour bike with all the bells and whistles and things. And so what I didn't tell her is we were going for a 400-mile bike ride that day for lunch. By the time we got through that, she taught me something that day on motorcycling, like all friends do, that the purpose of the helmet for the driver is to help the passenger steer. We did a lot of fun things. Our little company started out as a private company, went public after about 4 years. And as Karen was one of the people that joined me on and one other mischievous person, and we put 1,100 balloons in the president's office over the weekend. So he came into work one day and found he couldn't get inside his door. All kinds of fun stuff. We have been married since 1993. We were friends since then. We moved in together shortly after we got married, and Karen made the instant discovery that we were in our 30s, that we had boy furniture and girl furniture, and they didn't mingle well. So she made the decision that my furniture, the boy furniture, could go inside I got one bedroom, inside of closets in the garage. and her house, her furniture went everywhere else. So we decided we were going to learn how to buy furniture that we both liked. And it took us 18 months to find a single couch that we both liked. But it was a great sort of growing together and learning experience behind it all. A lot of fun. We've been involved in travel. We made the goal that we have to travel to every state in as many countries as we can together. Anything you did by yourself doesn't count. You have to do at least one destination fun thing in that place for it to count. So we're at 29 states and 24 countries around the world. We travel a lot, from China to Alaska, the long way around. We do a lot of things, and we do a lot of things. We spend a lot of time in public service events. I've been in Rotary for 7 years. We're both part of a little thing, if you know anything about Houston, where we're from, called the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. I've been a volunteer out there since 2003. We're leaving to go back as volunteers for their event in the next couple of weeks. We're still working at that event. Nice to help a couple million people visit Texas and have fun. I've had a lot of fun trying to explain how Texas is to people who aren't from Texas, and they don't get it till they come here and they meet the people and that kind of stuff. We did motorcycle support. I and a couple of the people started a public service event called Motorcycle Support, where we go out with first aid and FDA and FAA approved special equipment. We go out and ride public operations for charity events, bike-a-thons and walk-a-thons and the MS-150. We've done thousands of them. So Karen rode along with me. So she had a lot of fun. And we've just done all kinds of things for the state. And the best part about it is now we're 32 years into knowing each other. And I continue to feel that I'm married to my best friend, and we keep that going. So that's my story. Thank you.
A key part of a great relationship is good conversation and steering the person's helmet. So I think the good conversation makes me think about those conversation hearts. And one year when I did this, I talked about conversation hearts, what they would really say if we were honest. And I'm not going to repeat that. But what I am going to tell you is that conversation hearts, this is your trivia you can actually use on Valentine's. Conversation starts actually were invented by someone who made medical lozenges. And he switched over to that, and they were actually long initially. So I'm thinking they had to be much bigger. Years later, he made them into small heart shape by 1866. The initial one said, "Married in white, you have chosen right." We don't use that one anymore. How long shall I have to wait? Please be considerate. I'm not sure we would use that one anymore either. But what I do think is important for you to know is that 100,000 pounds of those chalky, talkative little candies are made every single year. They have a shelf life of 5 years. Now think that one through, would you? So a whopping 8 billion conversation hearts annually are sold if you give those this year. No one really eats those, do they? I'm just curious. Oh, do you? Oh, Christy. No. Okay. Well, we are now going to hear from our next guest, which I was pointed out to her earlier. So Christy Shepard, are you ready to come share with us about your love story? Do you want him to join you on stage so everyone can stare at him?
So I brought my husband today, Sterling Shepard, so he could hear me say nice things about him. So I'll start my story with a little background information so you have context. I had been divorced for 2 years. I was not interested in dating. And I had a coworker at work that's like, "You need to get on one of these dating apps. You need to do this. You need to get on. You need to get out there." And I'm like, I am not getting on a dating app. I'm going to end up with a stalker or a serial killer. I want absolutely nothing to do with the dating app. I'm not going to do it. She kept working on me and kept working on me. And she goes, "Okay, just log in as me and check it out." And I was like, okay, no harm is that in that. So I got on and I looked at some of the men, and then I looked at some of the women that were posting on there. And it was back before you could flip your phone around to take a selfie. So there were all these women in this provocative clothing, taking selfies in their dirty, filthy bathroom mirrors. And they were writing things like looking for a nice, good man to take care of. And I'm like thinking, no, you're not. You're looking for somebody to take care of you and pay your bills and do all these things. And so I'm like, I can do better than this. So I wrote a funny, very transparent, sassy, as Sterling says, bio for mine. And anyway, first guy went on a date. He told me he was 47 and he had a daughter at Texas State. And something fell off. And I got home and I used to look up impeachment evidence on people at work. And so I looked him up. He was not 47, he was 57. His daughter was not a student at Texas State, but she had graduated 7 years prior and had a very successful career. And I'm thinking, what a liar. So then went on date number 2. And these profiles, if you've never done this or whatever, you write your parameters, no smoking, no drug, whatever you put. And anyway, this guy said he was 5'10". Well, I'm barely 5'3", and I like to wear heels, and I cannot be looking down at you when we're talking. And so I show up at Starbucks and he was a whopping 5 foot nothing. And I had on my high heel sandals and was having to look down at him. So I'm like, this is for the birds. I am not doing this. All these guys just lie. I am not doing it. And so I got off for a couple of weeks and then I got back on and I discovered there was this whole other section on this dating app where other people were sending me messages, and Sterling had sent me a message and he had actually paid extra money to send me a digital rose. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Then I read his profile. It was so overly formal. I'm like, okay, this guy has got to be totally full of BS. There's no way. There's no way. And so anyway, I messaged him back and I thought, I need to be polite. I need to say thank you. So I messaged him back and I said, thank you so much for the rose. I'm kind of new to this. I haven't been on here very long. And I didn't realize I was supposed to be checking messages in this whole other section. And anyway, so he writes me back, and on my profile, I had written that I liked raspberry martinis. And so he writes me back in this very overly formal fashion and says, so tell me, where might one find a raspberry martini in Prosper, Texas? So I'm like, what the heck? He's still being so formal. So we communicate. And at that point, my kids were really involved. And so I was, they were testing for black belts and club soccer and all these things were going on. And so he's like, yeah, I was really wondering what you did for a profession because you were only messaging me between 11 and midnight every night. So I had all these rules set up. So I didn't end up with these, crazy people. Like I wasn't going to give my last name, wasn't going to say where I worked, wasn't going to give my address or anything like that. Well, we started playing phone tag. And I messed up and gave him my last name. And I'm like, oh, I cannot believe I just gave him my last name. Now he's going to be able to find me. So anyway, we met at a restaurant. We both arrived 30 minutes early. I sat in the car because I didn't want to look like an eager beaver. And he went to the bar. And so I walk in and the bar is right in the front when you walk in, and I could see from behind his hair sticking up. And so I knew it was him. And I walked up to the bar and he had brought a recipe for a raspberry martini. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet. So we start talking. We have all these things in common. Both of our dads died in tragic accidents. We both grew up in small towns. We both had grandparents really involved in raising us. We worked a block from each other in Dallas, of all of Dallas. We worked a block from each other. And we were born same month, same year, 2 days apart. So I had these safety rules in place. I'm not getting in the car with him or whatever. Well, after we talked, he was like, hey, do you dance? And I was like, yeah, it's been a while, but I do. And he's like, let's get out of here. Let's go dancing. I'm like, okay. So we pull up to this country and Western dance place and go up to the valet guy. Valet guy knows him by name. We go to where they check your ID and you pay to get in. ID checker knows him by name. We go up to the bar, bartender knows him by name. I'm thinking, I think this guy's a player. Oh my gosh. And so we danced, we played a little pool. He tried to get me on a mechanical bull and I'm like, no way, my jeans are too tight. They might pop, rip. I can't do that. So anyway, he's like, let's go somewhere else. So we leave, we go to a place called Blue Martini, pull up. Valet guy knows him by name. Go to pay, show our IDs. ID checker knows him by name. Go up to the bar. Not only does the bartender know him by name, but Sterling says, hey man, what was that drink you made last weekend? That was really good. What was that called? And the bartender goes, the Sterling. I'm like, okay, now I know this guy's a player. And so anyway, we danced and I had to get home. I had kids I had to pick up, and I'm driving home and I'm thinking, okay, well, he's got his kids next weekend. I'll probably hear from him in a week or so. Maybe we'll go out in 2 weeks. Soon as I walk in the door and set my purse down, my cell phone's ringing. And it's Sterling calling, and in his formal fashion, he's saying, so Miss Johnston, when might I be able to take you out for another date? And so my reply was, so Mr. Shepherd, when might you like to take me out for another date? And he says, tomorrow. And so anyway, we pretty much dated every night after that. We were married 2.5 years later. The proposal was so romantic. I had my pajamas on. I'd taken my makeup off. I had my glasses on. I had bleaching trays in my mouth, and he proposes to me. But anyway, I could not have asked for a better person. I mean, he is the kindest, most honest, loyal teammate. My children love him. They even loved him when they were teenagers. They absolutely loved him, and I could not ask for a better partner to do this life with. And our saying is lucky me, and I'm definitely one of the luckiest girls in the world. Love you, Sterling.
Very well done. Since she had on red, and this adds humor since I'm wearing red, but here's what y'all need to know about red. It has connotations of passion and sexuality as they kiss. I'm just saying. And it turns out science actually backs that idea up. Men find women wearing red or standing in front of a red background significantly more attractive than women wearing different colors. How many of you are changing up your wardrobe? A few women out there might be after this. And it's not just women who are more attractive in red. The study also found that women had the same views of men when wearing that color. So little nugget. Jeff Tallarico is going to go next. And actually, I picked a story to share right before Jeff came because I knew he has a good sense of humor. And I don't really know if the others would have found it as funny. Valentine's Day actually got its start as a Roman fertility festival. How many of you knew that? Okay, here's the thing. It came from a bloody pagan fertility festival dating back to the 6th century. And what would happen is the men would sacrifice the animals and then beat their significant other with the bloody pelt. Again, things they never tell you about this holiday. So single women don't do this on purpose. We know this stuff. I'm just saying. So it's you, Jeff.
And now we know why Rome fell. You know, I'm really scared about my memory. I'm sitting up here now and I can't remember a single girl I dated, and George knows them all. Judy showed us how much that George looked like a horse, and he had 2 left feet, but she married him anyway because he was a Methodist, right? That's what I got. Woody, you've been in the club for a few months now, but he thinks he's invisible, so he told everybody hi. Christy, you met your husband using someone else's profile on a dating app, and I like that. Other than her first date was older, and she misunderstood him. His daughter was not going to Texas State. She was an inmate of the state of Texas. So no, the rest of you guys, I got to share this probably 10 years ago. Some of you may remember it. Some of you may not. I fondly do. 14,382 days ago, I met my wife. We were freshmen at Northern Arizona University. It was September 24th. So you can do the math on it. I think my numbers are right. Just saying. A buddy of mine lived in the dorm that we met. We had just gone to school, so it's September. I met this guy named Carl. He was from Cleveland, Ohio. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so we were natural rivals, but I had to show him a good time and what to do. So we took him to a party, or I took him to a party. Guy's name was Phil. Phil invited us to his party. It was on the 7th floor high rise of Secret's dorm, which was the men's dorm. We got up there and I told Carl, this party's going to be good. I mean, Phil's this good guy. I've been to a couple of his parties. It's his birthday. It's going to be great. We get up there and there is 6 guys, no girls. Don't know what kind of party they have in Cleveland, but this was not hopping from Pittsburgh either. So we're in Northern Arizona and I'm like, okay, this party's lame. The hockey players are having a party on South Campus. Let's go there. But Carl, being from Cleveland, said, no, I like it here. I'm just staying. So I left him there. I said, okay, I'm going to go down to this party. If it's going better than this, I'll come back and get you. He said, okay. So of course I go to the hockey players, and everybody know hockey players. They're crazy, right? Their party was going on. It was great. So I go all the way back up to North Campus. I go up to the 7th floor of Secret's dorm, and Carl's sitting against the wall of the elevator shaft, which is right in the middle of the dorm, with this girl sitting next to him, and this party is better than the hockey party. I'm like, wait a minute. I bring this guy to a party to meet girls. There's nobody there. I go to another party. There's lots of girls. I go back to get him, and he's got a girl sitting next to him. And here I am still without a girl. So I walk into Phil's dorm room and I said, Phil, you have your guitar? He goes, yes. I said, can I borrow it? He said, sure. So I get his guitar. Now, I do not play the guitar. I know some chords. I am not a musician like George. So I start and sit down next to Carl and this girl and just start strumming some chords. As you all know me, I listen. So I'm listening to their conversation, and partway in it, I stopped and I said, hey, isn't your name Karen? And she goes, yeah. And I said, yeah, I met you and your roommate Shannon at the SIGET party last week. Do you not remember that? She goes, no. I said, yeah, I did. I said, it was good seeing you. I got up and walked away. Now, if you're a fisherman, that's called you're casting the line to see if you can get a hook. 32 seconds later, Karen gets up and walks around the elevator shaft to come talk to me because she doesn't remember meeting me the week before. So this is, I mean, it really is. It's a great story. And Karen will attest to this. She will tell you every bit of it is true. So here it is. I'm sitting down. I get up. I go over there. She follows. I'm thinking, oh, crap, that worked. So we start talking. And by that time, Carl is like, I don't know how many sheets to the wind, but he was plenty. He comes around the corner and he says, Karen, come back. And I said, Carl, we're old friends. She'll be back with you in a minute. So he goes away. About an hour and a half later, I said, Carl, it's been like 10 minutes. Go away. She'll be there. Needless to say, Karen and I started dating that night. I met her parents the very next night. All of her parents and her sister, I should say, I met the whole family the very next night. She invited me out to their camper for dinner. They were building a house in Flagstaff. They were all from Phoenix. And I had dinner at their house. Her mother burnt the French fries. So as I ate them, I said, oh yeah, these are really good. The joke is she makes flavorful French fries, but they were burnt. Anyway, that long story, Sue knows this family. She knows my in-laws, and she knows that the story is probably true. So we started dating on a lie. So 5 years after our dating, 5 years and 1 month to the day, we were married. That's been 35 years this year. So we've been together, it'll be 40 years. And, you know, being 37, I don't do that math very well, but, you know, like you, Christy, we are very close in age. I did marry an older woman, however, she is 5 days older than me. The interesting facts, though, about us is in Phoenix, where we both, you know, basically grew up from middle school and high school, we lived literally a mile apart. But the elementary school that I went to, she went to one that was a mile apart. Had we both stayed in those residences, we would have fed into Washington High School and we would have met probably in high school. But no, she moved to Paradise Valley. We moved out to Avondale, but then we met at Northern Arizona University. And it's just freaky how we went to the same places because we lived so close together. Christown Mall was there. I'm sure we've seen each other at the ice skating rinks at Metro Center or at the movies at Christown. I mean, it's just funny how God does those kind of things. But Karen had, and those of you who know her, please pray for her. I mean, she has to put up with me. And she's done quite well, but it has been one of those journeys, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. We are on to bigger and better things. We have a 5-year-old granddaughter. We just launched a church a year ago. There's so much we do together, and you have to be with your best friend. And those who have interacted with us know that. I give her as much grief as I possibly can, but she gives it right back. It's because we're friends. And being that friend and that relationships is what makes it work. So that's my story. If you ever play 3 truths and a lie with me, that's the ones I use, and I always win, because who thinks their relationship's going to last so long based on a lie? But it has. So there you go.
I just have to know, did you and Carl stay friends? Because I'm thinking I'd have dumped you if I was Carl. I'm thinking. Okay, well, just saying. Okay, well, I'm going to end with a couple of things before we get going, just so, again, you have your trivia. Because I'm amazed by this. Valentine's Day is expensive. I feel like we all kind of know that. But in 2019, Americans spent more than $20 billion on Valentine's Day. In 2020, it exceeded that figure by 7.4 billion more. Men were expected to spend $291 each. Women spent about 106. If you're not spending that, I'd like for you to go ahead and write that number down. 291. That's what you need to be spending. Most of that money goes toward jewelry, 5.8 billion. And for those of you who are like me, you know, the question I'm always asked every year, I give the same answer. I don't know why y'all keep asking, are you married yet? No, I've had the same 7 husbands I had before I left. But I haven't had 7 if you're new here, I promise. But what I do want to say is I have a beautiful dog named Lizzie, golden retriever. And here's what I found out. Almost 45 million American households bought Valentine's Day gifts for their dogs or cats in 2020. Are you ready for how much Americans spent on their pets? $751.3 million. Now, don't tell Lizzie other people are buying gifts. She never gets one on Valentine's Day. She doesn't buy me one. What does she get one for? So anyway, thank y'all for having me. And I know y'all have business to talk about, but it is always my pleasure to come see old friends. So thanks for having me.
Crystal, thank you. It's always so fun. It's even more fun sitting up here and seeing it. So it's I asked Stephanie if we have any families in Rotary. She reached out and just said, please let everybody continue to pray for those that were affected last week. Hard to believe we were here last Wednesday doing this, and then a day later it was, you know, kind of a little remembrance of last year. So everybody that is having any struggles with last week's weather, and also please continue to pray for Robin Myers. Her sister is doing much better, or getting better, not much better, but it's an improvement of where we were. So Christy, do you have a Rotarian of the week? Okay, so we can skip that one. We do need the time. So at this time, if I could please ask Becky Hutto and Danielle Yansky to please come up, as well as Woody. And how about you too, Bill? Come on up here. Not up here, but. Do this. Becky, I bet you know what you're going to do. So very informally here, Miss Becky Hutto, you are now officially a member of the Rotary Club of Kerrville. So, Mr. Peanut is going to ask me, where's my badge? I want to get rid of the red badge of shame. Give me that red badge of shame. Officially transferred in. We have one more to give, but you didn't come today. Nope, he has to go to school. We have two that have to go to school to get it. But we have one that went to school here today. So thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all for joining the club. All right, with membership. Who is not getting club emails? Invoices? David, please see Robin Myers. Anybody online that is not receiving club emails, invoices, or anything like that, please reach out to Robin. She is updating the entire Club Runner database, so everybody is well informed of what's going on, and so we can make sure that we get in constant communication with you, let you know the ongoings of the club, as well as the calendar that's being updated with all of our upcoming events on it. Membership also. I made a goal when I came in. We made a goal as your board that we wanted to get to 155 active members. We're 20 short. I know there's 2 in the room, hopefully 2. I'm looking at my gifts today, but hopefully 2 more, so we'll be 18 short. So if you have friends, bring a friend, encourage them to join the club. Let them know what we do, that we are people of action. Invite them to come to the main event, show them the pictures that we did, tell them what we do. How many club members know that we changed this year? Instead of giving 25 $1,000 scholarships, that some of them weren't even being utilized, some of them hadn't been picked up. So our youth administrator, Roy Boudreau, brought it to the board's decision, or to the board's attention. We made the decision, we're giving 10 $2,500 scholarships this year. So they will be utilized. And that will get their attention and get the kids out there. So it's things like that that we do. And it's things like that that Marta did at the main event on Saturday night that raises money for those funds so we can continue to do what we do. Labor Day Walk of Fun. We couldn't do that without the main event. Service projects, Veterans Breakfast. I want to talk about that because it's coming up in April. We got to figure out when we're going to do it. We had a little setback over there. As many of y'all know that Mr. Hill passed away. So we're trying to figure out when we're going to do it. It will be in April. We're going to continue to do April, November for our veterans. Come up and take the podium. I've got a list here, buddy. I'm going down. So, our other service projects we do, cleanups. Todd Odom runs the cleanup. He gets the kids out there from the high school. They help. We meet at Tally Elementary. We're also going to do a service cleanup. We're going to do cleanup in the park again. We have a district cleanup day, March the 26th, Saturday. We're going to meet at 10 o'clock at Lewis Hayes Park, start picking up trash. UGRA will be up again. Hopefully we'll continue to do that. That was a lot of fun. It's just things that we do. It's things that we get out there and do as people of action. First Responders Golf Tournament, Mr. Boudreau. I will get there now. April the 25th, Monday, River Hill Country Club. More information to follow on that. That is how we're able to turn around and give back to our first responders that take care of us, our EMT, our firefighters, our law enforcement that are there to protect us and serve us, that might need a little bit of a boost to go to a school or something that's not budgeted for. That's where the Rotary Club of Kerrville steps in. That's how we fund those projects. And then also the other thing that goes along with that we love so much, or at least I do, I know Jeff does, is our first responders luncheon. It's going to be here on the 27th. So 2 days after our golf tournament, we're going to turn around and honor our first responders here. Down in the gym, big deal. Got pied in the face last year. I've already been told we're not doing that again, but so, little does he know, double pies. No, but things like that. People of action, having fun, getting out there and doing things, supporting our community. Now I got to find my place, Roy. Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you to come up and you've got something to say. You've got some guests that we need to introduce that are here with us today. And then we also always do our fun thing of wine. I don't have a list of the guests.
I don't either. All right, don't worry about it.
We know where
We know where you
you
live.
know Randy's here.
I do. I saw him back there. Who else? Oh, yes, Sue Timon's husband.
We can just do it this way, informally. If you have a guest, please introduce them.
Yeah, Sue, you're up. Introduce your husband. Sure, go.
Yes, I want to introduce Martha Mason. She is from Blanco and she was one of the founders of the
Welcome, 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 welcome. Anybody else have a good? Who's your guest, Christy? Is your better half? Is his name Sterling? All right. Great, great. And I have photos that show you really enjoyed yourself on Saturday night. Okay, who else?
I do.
Go.
I asked my friend Randy Evans to join us today from Massey Ishner. Y'all all know Alan. Thank you, Randy, for being here.
Anybody else? All right, good. Captain Jeremiah has presented me with a little opportunity here. Thanks, by the way. Salvation Army, Croc, and specifically, because I guess there's no other membership in Salvation Army, is it? They have voted to give free memberships to public safety, active public safety and active military. It's about $500-600 a year that they're going to save us from having to spend. And of course, they have a program for our spouses to at $25 a month. So I want to bring that to you. Jeremiah and I talked before the meeting, and thank you very much. So many of the young troops, as you all know, even though with this wonderful 10% pay raise that the city just got their troops, they don't make much money. $54,000 a year. Most of you don't even go out of the house for $54,000 a year. So thank you on behalf of my colleagues and in our community, fire, EMS, all our public safety people and law enforcement. I really appreciate it. So.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Captain, for y'all doing that for us. Fun times. Wayne, you got a Rotary pin on? If you didn't, let me got it. Have anything else? Marta? Yes, we do have one more announcement and then we will close the meeting. I'll let Marta close the meeting actually, so she can get ready to be your club president, but she's going to talk about the main event.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So just real quickly, and I'm not a math major, but I tried to, get my little abacus out and do all the counting. We brought in about $18,000 just at the night of the event. So to everybody that was there, that was doing the silent auction, bidding on live auction, buying raffle tickets, Tammy, Robin, Christy, a whole bunch of people were going around table to table, person to person, trying to sell additional raffle tickets, and it worked. So if we take that and we couple it with what had come in previously, I think the event is going to land somewhere around 75 to 78,000 before we take out our expenses. We do still have to take out expenses. But I hope everybody that was there had a great time. If you couldn't make it, I know you were with us in spirit. We learned a lot of lessons about what to do differently next time, but that's the nature of an event. You always learn how you can improve and make it better for your guests. But from a community standpoint, I really extend sincere, heartfelt gratitude to all of you in this room, whether you sent me an email of encouragement or you met me somewhere in town to pick up some tickets or pay for your tickets, or God bless Jimmy Hutto and Robin for the things they did for that silent auction, and Amber for the wine and whiskey pull. It all came together, and it certainly was because, again, from a club perspective, we're all connected and we're all here to support each other and support the success of this club. And I think our club is one of the most exceptional there is. And it's because of every single person sitting in these seats and what you bring to it. So thank you very much.
I will say congratulations, Marta, because they're not fun. They're not easy. It's well, it is fun when it's over, but while you're doing it, it's not a whole lot of fun trying to figure out, oh my goodness, what am I going to do so we can keep doing what we do? But as Rotarians and citizens of the community, it all came together. There's what was it? Hannibal Smith. I love it when a plan comes together. So with that, if there is no other club business, we're a little bit over. So if you would, please join me in the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?